one thing about Changi is that we were split up into areas there according to which division you belonged. For instance, the one area was the 18th Division, one was the something Indian Division, one was the hospital area, and to go from one area to the other, there were separate roads with the sentries, Japanese sentries, or Indian National Army sentries. These were Indian renegades who'd gone over to the Japanese, either that or Indians who had volunteered for the job. And it was very difficult to go from one area to the other. You had to have a special armband or a special flag or something. So movement was a bit restricted, but everybody could go into the hospital area. Now, I thought that there ought to be some sort of Jewish life in Changi, and I discovered that in the 18th Division area there were a Jewish service being held on a Friday night.
Yes.
Now, the 18th Division was an East Anglian division, but there were a lot of soldiers there who came from the East End of London, and there were a lot of Jewish soldiers amongst them. And one Friday night I managed to get from the hospital area into the 18th Division area. 18th Division were the last lot into Singapore, the ones that came just as the Japanese were, as we were surrendering more or less. They more or less marched straight off the ship into POW camp. And I found there was a service there being run by a Dr. Silman, Harry Silman, and he died last year, aged 103. He was the medical officer of the Northumberland Fusiliers. Anyhow, I thought that's all very well, but we ought to have one Jewish service that would suit, that would be available for the whole of Changi, and the only area that was available to the whole of Changi was the hospital area.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So I was friendly with the chaplain general of the army, and through his through his help, I arranged in June a Jewish service to which anybody could come from any of the areas outside, in the ruined cinema in the hospital area. It had been bombed and had no roof, but that didn't matter. And about 40 or 50 Jewish soldiers attended this service, which I and another Jewish soldier took.
Yes.
We conducted the service. I mean, my qualifications were that my father had been was a minister, and I had been well educated in Jewish things, and I was religious myself. So I held the first Jewish service available to the whole of Changi in June 1942. And the next day they loaded us onto Dakota aircraft and flew us to Rangoon. Unfortunately, at least one of the planes on this run crashed, and people were killed on their way home, which was very unfortunate. But we were all right. We got to Rangoon, and they put us into a sort of hospital and gave us a quick check over. And the funny thing was, as we got off the plane, I mean, they I had a battered suitcase with my few possessions in, and a nurse came and took it away from me, and I sort of had a little struggle with her. I didn't want a woman carrying my kit, but she persisted, and they took us into this hangar where there were long tables with white tablecloths on and plates of bread and butter and cups of tea. And some of the soldiers were so overcome by this, they burst into tears. Just the sight of something normal, which we hadn't seen for all those years, the bread and butter and real tea. Before that, we drank boiled river water in a dirty mug, as that was our drink. And then they loaded us onto ships at the end of September. That's right. And we stopped at Colombo on the way home, where the ship that we were on had all prisoners of war and a few army nurses and a few civilians going home, but there were mainly prisoners of war.
Right. Yeah.
And we stopped at Colombo, where a crowd of wrens took the officers off to their club and gave us tea. They entertained us very nicely, and we were all a bit apprehensive. We hadn't seen women for white women for all those years. And October the 22nd, 1945, we docked at Southampton. And that was it.
What was that like?
5 years almost after I'd left Britain, I was back again.
What did it feel like when you steamed up to Solent?
It was a wonderful feeling, you know, to be home. We were the umpteenth ship with prisoners on board to arrive home. The first ship arrived a week or so before Liverpool, where to a hero's welcome. They lined the streets. The streets of Liverpool were lined with civilians, and as the coaches with the soldiers on board went past, the girls rushed forward and pulled them off the coaches and kissed them, and really made such a fuss of them. By the time we got to Southampton, we were already old news.
Right.
And I think all we got was the deputy mayor greeting us. But I couldn't have cared less.
No.
All I wanted was the telephone, and I was number 2 to reach the telephone.
Right.
To phone my family.
Lovely. Did you have a survival strategy as such?
Not really, only to come home.
Yes. I mean, was there anything that kind of kept you going?
I am religious, as I said.
Yes.
And I believe that God was with me and that I would survive.
Yes, okay.
I was convinced.
Right.
There's one of our psalms that ends, God is with me and I shall not fear. And I used to recite this to myself in Hebrew.
Yes.
In his hands I place my soul. The Lord is with me and I shall not fear.